A loser. The neon green sticky note glared up at me from my monitor. 5 pairs of eyes peeked over the cubicle walls, waiting for me to react. Quiet chuckles rippled through the suddenly hushed office. I stood frozen, my morning latte still warm in my hand, letting my gaze travel from the childish block letters to their eager faces. This wasn't the first time, but it was the most public, the most blatant. I set my cup down with deliberate calm, peeled the note off with 2 fingers, and tossed it into the trash. Smoothing my skirt, I sat down at my desk and began typing as if nothing had happened. But inside, something had shifted. Not broken, shifted, like tectonic plates moving beneath the earth before a quake. I could feel Marcus Hale watching from his office, the ringleader, clearly disappointed by my lack of reaction. Beside him, Selena Frost, his loyal seconding command, whispered something that made him smirk. Evan and Lara pretended to work while sneaking glances my way. Even Noah, the newest recruit trying to earn his place in their little hierarchy, hovered nearby, eager to prove himself. 7 months of this treatment, and they still expected tears. They wanted a scene, proof that their tactics worked, that I was as pathetic as they decided. What they didn't know was I had stopped noting their childish pranks weeks ago and had started tracking something far more interesting, something that would change everything. The office printer hummed, spitting out pages I hadn't authorized. I didn't need to check. Other joke, probably my resume smeared with unflattering comments or a fake performance review. Selena giggled as she collected the papers, passing them around like party favors. I kept typing, fingers moving smoothly, never pausing. What no one realized, as they exchanged knowing looks, was that my screen displayed not the report I was supposed to finish, but an email address for someone they'd never met. Someone whose name would strike terror into their hearts within 48 hours. I only had to press send. Before we move on, trust me, you'll want every detail of what happens next. If you love stories of office revenge, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment about your own experiences with workplace bullies. Now, back to that sticky note. My name is Isabella Grant. Never Izzy, never Bella. I'm the analytics specialist who joined Luminar Corp's Pacific Heights regional branch 7 months ago. I was 31, single by choice, here with a clear assignment. Evaluate operational efficiency and recommend improvements. What no one told me was that I'd be stepping into a horn, its nest of territorial employees, led by a manager who saw me as nothing more than a corporate spy. I grew up as the middle child between 2 loud, demanding siblings, learning to observe more than speak. That quiet vigilance became my superpower. People underestimate those who don't constantly broadcast their thoughts. They forget you're there, they forget you're listening, they forget you notice patterns they never saw coming. Before the acquisition, this office had functioned like its own kingdom. Marcus Hale, the regional manager, had built a team over 8 years with employees loyal to him personally rather than to Luminar Corp. They had routines, inside jokes, unspoken rules. Then I arrived, a living reminder that they now answered to a larger entity. The exclusion started immediately. Meeting invites mysteriously never reached me. Crucial info was shared at impromptu coffee breaks just after I returned from lunch. My suggestions in team meetings were met with silence, only to be later attributed to someone else with enthusiastic approval. I tried standard methods to break the barrier: donuts on Fridays, compliments, staying late to help with deadlines. Nothing worked. If anything, they found it amusing. She's trying so hard. I overheard Lara whisper to Evan one afternoon. It's kind of sad. The day I stopped seeking their approval was the day I truly began observing. Patterns emerged. Discrepancies between reported numbers and real outcomes. Client complaints disappearing. Projects marked complete without delivering results. At first, I thought it was inefficiency, but 3 months in, I found something that demanded attention. 2 versions of the same report with mismatched numbers. Just a draft, Marcus said, his smile never reaching his eyes. That night, I began keeping separate notes, not on their social slights, but on these discrepancies. I worked later than everyone else, accessing files they assumed no one would touch. I volunteered for menial tasks they considered beneath them. giving me legitimate reasons to access systems they treated as private. Meanwhile, the bullying escalated. Presentation slides altered minutes before client meetings. My name removed from project contributions. Someone changed my desktop wallpaper to an unflattering photo of me eating lunch alone. The breaking point came when Marcus took credit for my cost-saving proposal. Weeks of analysis, 3 years of operational data submitted directly to him as required. When quarterly review came, he presented it as his own, with one critical change: projected savings of $9 million downsized to $720,000. We don't want corporate setting unrealistic expectations, he said. I did you a favor. Better to underpromise and overdeliver. I smiled, thanked him, and logged it in my file. By the morning of the sticky note, my documentation had grown substantial. I hadn't acted yet. I was collecting conclusive evidence. But that green note, the culmination of months of petty cruelty, crystallized my resolve. They had confused patience with passivity, observation with obliviousness. While they went out for lunch, I stayed behind, organizing my findings into a precise analysis. Misreporting performance metrics, inconsistent client billing, and deliberate obstruction of post-acquisition integration. I drafted an email to Vivian Cortez, COO of Luminar HQ, someone I'd never met but whose reputation for zero tolerance of inefficiency preceded her. Professional, factual, devoid of personal grievance. I attached spreadsheets, screenshots, and timelines. I concluded, these issues reflect intentional dysfunction rather than incompetence. I've developed a recovery strategy that could salvage this branch's potential. I'm available to discuss further at your convenience. My finger hovered over send. Once pressed, there was no turning back. As I contemplated it, Marcus Hale appeared, leaning against my desk with his usual condescending smile. Selena stood behind him, watching. Isabella, he said, we're concerned you seem unhappy here. Maybe this position isn't the right fit for you. I met his gaze. Actually, I was thinking the same. This arrangement doesn't seem to be working as intended. Relief flickered across his face. I can talk to HR about placing you somewhere more suitable. That's thoughtful, I said, moving my hand to my mouse. But I've already taken initiative. I clicked send. Marcus froze. What does that mean? It means I'm finally participating in the culture you created here. I'm being proactive. He left my desk confused, not concerned. Within 24 hours, that would change dramatically. I packed up at 5:00 p.m., nodding politely as the team watched me, confident in their assumed dominance. What they didn't know, cornered prey can be dangerous, and I was no longer cornered. In the parking lot, my phone buzzed. Operational concerns at Pacific Heights Regional Branch. I read Vivian Cortez's 3-line response. Isabella, extremely concerning information. Do not discuss on site. I'll arrive tomorrow with the audit team, continue as normal, delete this email after reading. The next morning, I arrived at 7:15 a.m. Before anyone else, the office was eerily quiet. Evan arrived at 8:35, Lara and Noah at 8:50, Selena at 9:05. She's acting weird today, Lara whispered, too quiet, probably planning her resignation, and Noah snorted, if they only knew, at 10:17 a.m. Marcus's phone rang. I watched as his expression shifted from pleasant to alarmed. He called Selena in. Hushed, tense conversation followed. By lunch, the group lunch was canceled. Marcus held a meeting without me. The team's faces grew pale, distressed at 2:43 p.m. The elevator doors opened. Vivian Cortez stepped out, flanked by 2 men in sleek suits. The storm had arrived. The entire office fell silent. Vivian Cortez's gaze swept the room before locking on me. She strode directly to my desk, her heels clicking sharply against the laminate floor. Isabella Grant, she said, though it was clear she already knew exactly who I was. Yes, I replied, standing to greet her. I'm Vivian Cortez. These are Edward Lang and Simon Hale from our audit team. Is there somewhere private we can speak? Marcus Hale emerged from his office so quickly he almost tripped. MS Cortez, what an unexpected pleasure. I'm Marcus Hale, Regional Manager. We weren't notified of your visit. I would have. That was intentional, Mr. Hale. Vivian cut him off without turning. We need your conference room immediately. Of course, Marcus stammered, glancing toward his team, who now stared wide-eyed at the corporate delegation. Actually, Vivian said, finally turning to him, you'll stay where you are. We'll be speaking with MS Grant first alone. The look Marcus gave me could have cut glass, confusion, suspicion, and the first flickers of fear competing for dominance. Vivian led me to a small meeting room at the far end of the floor. Once inside, the door closed firmly behind us. She turned to me, her intensity almost physical. Your email contains extremely serious allegations, she said. Before we proceed, I need to know, do you stand by everything you reported? Every word, I replied steadily. And you understand the implications, terminations, possibly legal action? I understand, I said. She studied me silently for a long moment. Most people in your position would have focused on workplace harassment. Your email mentions none of that. Because this isn't about me, I said. It's about systematic misconduct costing the company millions. A flicker of approval crossed her face. Walk me through it. Everything you've observed. For the next hour, I presented my findings. I explained the branch's pattern of misrepresented metrics. How the Pacific Heights Regional Branch reported a 25% growth in client retention, when the actual number was closer to 8%. I showed how operational costs were being creatively concealed, and, most importantly, how Marcus had deliberately obstructed post-acquisition integration to maintain autonomy. Edward Lang reviewed my spreadsheets. You're claiming potential annual savings of $9 million, but the version submitted to headquarters projected only $720,000. Yes, I confirmed. The original analysis was mine. The numbers were altered before submission. Vivian leaned forward. Can you prove that? I pulled out my tablet. I keep backups of all my work. This is the original document with metadata confirming creation date and authorship. As they reviewed my evidence against official records, their expressions grew grim. Simon whispered something to Vivian, who nodded sharply. We've seen enough for now. Vivian said, MS Grant, remain available but return to your desk. Act normally. Say nothing about this meeting to anyone. When I emerged, 5 pairs of eyes followed me back to my desk. Marcus approached Vivian as she exited, his smile strained. MS Cortez, now that you've spoken with MS Grant, perhaps we could discuss, certainly, Mr. Hale. Vivian interrupted coolly. Your entire team, conference room, 5 minutes. As Marcus gathered his team, Selena Frost brushed past my desk, leaning down. What did you tell them? She hissed. The truth. I said calmly, meeting her gaze. What truth? The truth in the numbers. I replied, returning to my screen. For the next 3 hours, Vivian and the auditors remained in the conference room with Marcus and his team. Occasionally, raised voices penetrated the glass walls, but the words were indistinct. Marcus emerged twice to grab files, his movements stiff, his face increasingly drawn. At 6:15 p.m., the conference room door opened. The team filed out, their expressions a mixture of shock, anger, and fear. Marcus remained seated, head in hands. Vivian returned to my desk. We'll need you early tomorrow, 7:30 a.m. We have more questions. I'll be here, I said. As Vivian and the auditors left, oppressive silence fell. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. Finally, Evan approached. You did this, he said, flat with disbelief. I reported discrepancies in our operational data. I corrected him. Do you understand what you've done? Lara's voice trembled. They're talking about a full departmental audit. Possible investigations. That's a corporate decision based on findings. I replied evenly. Noah shook his head. We were just having fun. The sticky note was a joke. What note? I asked, pretending confusion. Oh, you mean the loser note. Their faces drained of color as realization set in. Audrey approached last, arms crossed defensively. Trevor built this team, 8 years of work. Family. Families don't lie, cheat, or sabotage each other. I said quietly, we never stole anything. She protested. Misrepresenting performance metrics, concealing inefficiencies, taking credit for others' work. What would you call it? I asked. She had no answer. I packed my things and walked toward the elevator. Marcus called after me, desperation creeping in. Isabella, whatever they offer, promotion, bonus, transfer, I can match it. We can make things comfortable here. It's not about what I want, Marcus. It's about what you did. People will be held accountable, I replied. That night my phone buzzed endlessly. Calls from Marcus, Selena, Evan, even Lara. I let them go to voicemail, listening to increasingly desperate messages. Threats, pleas, bargaining. Audrey's last message trembled. Just tell us what you want. We can fix this. They couldn't fix this. Not anymore. I slept better that night than I had in months. The truth was out and it would have its day. The next morning I arrived at 7:30 a.m. in a simple black dress, confident. Vivian was there with a new face, Edward Barstow, CEO of Luminar Corp. MS Grant, he said, extending his hand. I've heard a lot about you in the last 12 hours, sir, I replied, shaking firmly. Let's talk in private, he suggested, gesturing to Marcus's office. As we settled, Edward studied me. Helena says you found discrepancies missed in audits for nearly 3 years. Remarkable. I had the advantage of being underestimated. I explained. And why didn't you mention the hostile environment? This isn't about me. It's about how this branch has been operating. A smile spread across his face. That's exactly what Helena said you'd say. He leaned forward. MS Grant, significant changes are effective immediately. Marcus Hale is terminated today. 2 others will follow pending review. I held my breath. The remaining staff will undergo retraining and supervision. Edward continued. We need someone to oversee the transition. That person will be you. Me, leading the team that tried to push me out. I appreciate your confidence, I said, but will they accept my authority? Edward smiled. Acceptance isn't required. Compliance is, or resignation. Vivian stepped forward. We need someone who can't be manipulated. You've proven you're that person. I considered the implications, walking into the office daily, not as the outsider but the authority, implementing the changes I identified months ago, watching Marcus's team adjust to reality. Position, I asked. Interim branch director, 3 months, reporting to Vivian, full authority over operations, salary adjusted. Edward replied, when does it start? Today, Vivian said, after Trevor is briefed. I nodded. Then I accept. At 8:30 a.m., Marcus arrived. Color drained from his face when he saw Edward behind his desk. MS Grant will take over as interim branch director, effective immediately, Edward stated flatly. Marcus froze. That's my position. Not anymore, Vivian said. Edward calmly laid out the audit findings, misrepresented metrics, obstructed integration, altered report. Each violation tied to company policy. Marcus attempted defenses, each weaker than the last. You'll regret this, he muttered. Security will escort you to clear your desk. Vivian said, 30 minutes. By noon, Marcus and Audrey had left the building. Remaining team members huddled in the break room, anxious whispers filling the air. Edward departed for the airport, leaving Vivian to help me assert my new authority. You'll face resistance, she warned. From staff and from clients accustomed to Marcus's way. I'm ready, I replied. That afternoon, Vivian held a full branch meeting. Standing beside her, I watched my former tormentors' faces. Effective immediately, Isabella Grant will serve as interim branch director, Vivian announced. She has full authority to reorganize operations, reassign responsibilities, and implement new protocols. Her decisions are backed by corporate leadership and are not subject to appeal. Silence. Evan stared at the floor, Lara chewed her lip, Noah swallowed hard. Over the next 2 weeks, each of you will undergo a comprehensive review of your work. MS Grant will make recommendations regarding your continued employment. Vivian added. The message was clear. Their professional futures now rested in my hands. How do you want to handle this? Vivian asked. I considered carefully. I want to meet with each team member individually, Today, starting with Evan. Evan entered my new office, Marcus's old domain, with the caution of someone approaching a wild animal. He perched on the edge of the visitor chair, hands clasped tightly. "You wanted to see me?" he asked, a statement, not a question. I replied, my eyes on the file open on my desk. "I've been reviewing the client reports you've managed over the past year. There's a pattern I'd like to discuss." Fear flickered across his face. "I'm sure you can explain any discrepancies," I interrupted, "but that's not why you're here. I'm more interested in your analysis of the Westridge account, completed last month." Confusion replaced fear. "Westridge, that was just a standard renewal, nothing special." "On the contrary," I said, sliding the file toward him. "Your competitive analysis identified an opportunity to expand services, increasing annual revenue by nearly 30%. It was excellent work." He blinked rapidly, thrown by the unexpected praise. "Oh, thank you. Then why didn't you present it at the client meeting?" His gaze dropped. "Marcus said it was too aggressive. We should wait until next quarter." "And your opinion?" I asked. He hesitated, then straightened. "No, their product launch creates a perfect opportunity. Waiting risks losing the business to competitors." I nodded. "Exactly, which is why I've scheduled a meeting with Westridge tomorrow. You'll lead the presentation." His head snapped up. "Me, but it's your analysis. You should present it." For a moment he couldn't process it. Then cautiously, "And the review, my job performance?" "This isn't about what you did under Marcus. It's about what you will do under me. Clear expectations, credit for your work, and accountability for results. That's our operating principle going forward." By day's end, I'd met individually with the rest of the team. With Lara, I highlighted her innovative client retention strategies dismissed by Marcus. With Milo, I explored technical skills that had long been ignored. Each conversation followed the same rhythm: acknowledge past achievements, clarify expectations, assign tasks to demonstrate capability. They left confused but cautiously optimistic. A fresh start, not retribution. That evening, Evan approached. "I don't understand. You could have fired us all. Why didn't you?" I considered him thoughtfully. "Reacting to the past isn't my goal. I'm building the future." His expression suggested skepticism, but he nodded. "Westridge presentation, ready by morning. I know you will be," I said. Over the following weeks, the office culture shifted. Initial apprehension gave way to engagement. Meetings became collaborative. Information flowed freely. Helena visited regularly, pleased. Client retention up 12%. Operational costs down 8%. Integration milestones on track, she noted. "Just the beginning." "Exactly," I assured her. "There were bumps. Marcus, bitter from termination, tried to poach clients. 2 left. Audrey filed a complaint, swiftly dismissed. Yet throughout, I remained steady, professional, and fair, qualities that earned my team's respect." 6 weeks in, Vivian called. "The board is impressed. They want to make your appointment permanent branch director." "Honored," I replied. "I need a few days to consider." That night, alone, I reflected. From outsider with a neon sticky note on her monitor to leader rebuilding a broken branch. Vindication felt incomplete. Something was unfinished. Next morning, I requested a video call with Vivian and Edward. "I've made my decision regarding the permanent position." I began. Edward nodded encouragingly. "We're ready to be generous with the compensation package. It's not about money." I said, "I accept. But on one condition, complete restructuring authority." Vivian leaned forward. "Not just staffing or protocols. I want to redesign the branch entirely within Centrix's larger framework." They exchanged glances. "That's significant," Edward noted. I explained. "The regional branch model is obsolete. It creates silos, encourages territorial behavior, and complicates integration. I proposed dissolving the branch structure and creating specialized cross-regional teams." I shared the organizational model I'd developed quietly, months before the loser sign, long before anyone knew I was watching. "This system eliminates redundancy, standardizes processes, creates clear advancement paths, and prevents isolated power concentration. The exact conditions that allowed Marcus's abuses. Vivian studied it. You've been planning this from the beginning, and not exactly, I admitted, but the structural problems were obvious immediately. They're not unique to this branch. They're inherent to the regional model itself. Edward stroked his chin. Implementation would be complex. Other regional managers may resist. Yes, but the efficiency gains are substantial. Projected 27% operational cost reduction company-wide within 18 months. And the existing team? Vivian asked. I smiled. That's the best part. The following Monday, I called a branch-wide meeting. Nervous faces, sensing change. As of today, I announced, this regional branch no longer exists. Gasps. Instead, I continued, we are the pilot for Centrix's new integrated operations model. Each of you will be placed in specialized roles within regional teams based on your strengths. I outlined the new structure. Evan, head of strategic analysis, coordinating across locations. Lara, lead client relations, standardizing retention protocols. Milo, join technical integration, applying previously untapped skills. These are promotions, not lateral moves, I explained. Greater authority, broader responsibility, direct visibility with corporate leadership. Stunned silence shifted to cautious excitement. Why would you do this for us? Lara asked after everything. This isn't for you. I said quietly, it's for everyone ever underestimated, excluded, or labeled a loser. Understanding dawned. You never wanted revenge. Evan realized. Change, yes. Revenge, yes. Both. I corrected. Your attempts to exclude me gave me the perfect vantage to redesign the system. Trevor's method, isolated power, exclusion, manipulation, were obsolete. Every day they came to work, they participated in a system built for collaboration, transparency, and fairness. 3 months later, Vivian returned to assess progress. Results exceeded projections. Client satisfaction up 31%. Efficiency up 22%. Employee engagement at an all-time high. The board approved expansion of the new model company-wide. Vivian paused before leaving. Most people would have used their position to punish those who hurt them. You used it to fix the system that allowed it. I smiled. Isn't that the best revenge? Not just winning the game, but changing the rules so no one else has to play it. Sometimes, the most powerful response to being labeled a loser isn't proving you're a winner. It's redefining what winning means. If you've ever been underestimated, pushed aside, or labeled incapable, remember this. The person you overlook today might be redesigning the entire world tomorrow.